Hey folks, it's Mike. So yeah, I'm inside for the moment because it's cold. But in this video, I'm going to discuss an experiment that I've been performing over the last month and a half, which explains why it's been so long since I posted my last video. But anyway, I'm experimenting with lighting for color film negatives because I just haven't been fully satisfied with the results that I've been getting with the color negatives that I've been editing. It's, you know, I feel like I've just been making constant adjustments just to get the color just right, and then looking back on it going, it's okay, it could be better. Making changes to things such as temperature and tint, and playing around with the red, green, and blue channels in the tone curve in Lightroom, and in Photoshop as well in some instances. Yeah, and then of course, I'll throw the balance off by, making a change to the exposure, which makes some funny adjustments to the color again. And yeah, it's sort of a vicious circle where I feel like I'm, juggling several balls in the air, and then introducing some ninja throwing stars into it. And then some rabbit ferrets, and at the end of the day I feel like I've got several cuts on my hands and rabies. So yeah, let's get to it and explain some of the experiments I've been going on with. So yeah, I've been doing a little research online, using Google, using YouTube, and to help me with improving my processing for color film. And a lot of it is very scientific and kind of goes well over my head. My pea-sized brain just can't really fathom a lot of it. I mean, I can glean some details and sort of interpret it as different color light affects different colors on the color film negatives differently. So I've been making a bit of an error with the Godox light that I've been using to light the color film negative. This being the Godox light in question. It's got several different settings that I can use. One for giving me sort of interesting light effects, like the lights from a police car or campfire or whatever. The one that I've been mainly using is one for allowing me to change the hue and saturation of the light, and I've been lighting the color film negatives with that mode where I can set the saturation to 0%, which isn't really giving me a pure white light. And I've recently read the manual, which I should be doing with anything I use, and discovered that there's actually a setting that allows me to get a pure white light, which is 5500 Kelvin light. And so that's helped me with my experiments. So yeah. So the goal of this video is to show you my experiments with light and how it affects color film negatives. Aside from the 0% saturation light that I've been using, I'm going to show you the 5500 Kelvin pure white light. I've also been experimenting with some other colors just to see what kind of effects they'll have. So stay tuned. All right, so in terms of the setup, what I've done is gone ahead and taken some construction paper, quite a bit of tape, and some plastic just for reinforcement, and just sort of cobbled together a little film holder. And from that point, I'll just tape it directly onto the Godox light, which of course is on a tripod, and just smash them together Okay, maybe not that violently, but yeah, I'll just tape them together, turn on the light, and start taking photos with the camera. And I will also say that with the light, you have to diffuse the light, otherwise you don't want, I mean, in this particular case with the Godex light, it's got individual LED lights in it. And if you don't diffuse that light, you're going to see weird, lighted spots, which is why you need the diffusion panel. And I will also say with the camera that I'm using, it is, the old trusty 77D, but it's got a 100 millimeter macro lens on it. I haven't bothered trying something like a 70-200 or my wife's 150-600 Sigma lens, but no, that's not recommended. With the macro lens, actually I should keep this here. You can actually, you can probably see it there, maybe, I'm not sure, but you can do some fine focusing on it because you want the negatives to be in focus when you actually photograph it. For the settings, I'll use ISO 100, which is the base ISO for the pretty much any Canon camera. I'll also use an aperture of f8 just to make sure that everything's in focus. As for the shutter speed, I'll put that in aperture priority and let the camera select that. Typically, I think it ranged from about 1/30th of a second to 1/50th of a second, I believe. And it essentially went from there. And as you can see in this video here that I took one afternoon on my lunch break, I've got the tripod for the camera set up within probably less than half a foot in front of the Godox light / film holder setup. And in terms of sort of helping to refine the focus, also move the tripod with the light and the film holder assembly backwards or forwards just to make sure. And of course I got up several times to make sure that the orientation of the light wasn't crooked, either like that or like that essentially, just to make sure that everything's in focus, and that it just makes things a little easier to edit. So this is the lighting method that I've been using, and where I've essentially struggled with making sure that all the colors are balanced properly. On the Godex light, it's got a hue setting, which honestly it's irrelevant for this case because it's a saturation set to 0%. And I'm using an intensity of 70% on the light because it's not too bright, not too dark. You got to keep in mind that if it's too bright, the image will be too dark if when you flip the tone curve, and the same is true when if it's too dark, the image will be too bright. So yeah, and I'll show some of the editing that I go through with using a 0% saturation light. All right, as you can see here, this is the image that, or the negative that I shot with the 0% saturation light. Looks quite red, and of course we can do some nice adjustments here in Lightroom. First step would be to, well, for me anyway, is to straighten it out and crop it. So just go to the crop overlay tool, hold down the shift key and double click on the word angle or angel, your choice, and crop it in, not all the way because I want to use the edge of the negative specifically so I can perform this next step, which is to get the white balance. So I'm happy with that as a crop, and then next step is to click on the eyedropper for the white balance, and then just click on the edge of the film negative there, and as you can see, it cools things down a lot and switches the tint to a lot more green. So that's a good starting point. Next step is to go to the tone curve and go to the your basic tone curve here and flip it on its head. And it's a good starting point at this point. At this point, you can just make some adjustments in terms of how contrasty you want it to look. Maybe something like that. And at this point, it certainly need to make sure that we get the color a little more accurate. So maybe just adjust this a bit. It's getting closer to what I want it. Maybe that's. How do I want to do this? Okay. Don't mind me, just making some adjustments. In fact, at this point, I'll just sort of show you the final result, and we'll go from there. And as you can see, this is getting towards the final result. I've added a little bit of sharpening just to give it a little more detail. As for these scratches that you can see, those are from the negative itself. And not sure if I want to keep them or get rid of them. I mean, I might just keep them just to really let you know this is film. And with the janky setup that I've got, as you can see, there's some light bleed on the left side. Might just apply a radial filter to darken that down. Start with that. Go to, let's see, do that. Let's not turn off the mask, let's invert it. Do that. Maybe more of an effect on that side. Okay. All right, I got to remember, if I want to, because it's a negative, I have to go with positive exposure, not negative exposure, to darken it down. So how does that look? I suppose that works. Close that. Yeah, I think at this point it's pretty good. I can certainly do a lot more refinement to sort of really dial it into the way I want it to look. So, but I will say that with shooting with 0% saturation, I had to do a ton of work in the tone curve with each individual channel. So I've, as I say, I've been wanting to experiment with other lighting methods just to see if it'll get me closer to what I want it to look like without doing too much work in the tone curve, because things could get kind of ugly if you're not too careful. So yeah, this is the white light that everyone keeps talking about. It's 5500K in terms of the color of the light. And again, I typically use an intensity of 70% just to make sure that it's not too bright, not too dark. So yeah, I'll show you some of the editing that I go through with using a sort of a true white light, as it's referred to. All right, so this is the negative as shot by the 5500 Kelvin light, the pure white light. And as you can see, it's also crooked, but that's because of the setup that I use to photograph the negatives. Still working on a more permanent and better solution. So yeah. Anyway, the first step at this point is to straighten the image, which you can just click on the crop overlay tool, hold down the shift key, and double click on angel or angle, your choice. And crop it in, but not all the way, because I want to use the edge of the film strip as a reference for white balance. So I've got that, and then use the white balance eyedropper tool, drag it over to the edge of the negative and click on it, and it's getting closer. And I should also note that with the 5500 Kelvin light, after making this white balance adjustment, you'll see that the temperature is down to 2150, and the tint is at -53, so well into the green range. And as a comparison to the image using the 0% saturation light, a little more extreme. Color temperatures drop down to 2000, and the tint is -111, which I didn't think was possible. But sometimes you got to go to extremes. So yeah, let's go back here, and the next step, of course, is to go to the tone curve. Go to there, flip it on its head, and it's not bad. So we'll just adjust sort of the contrast a little bit, darken it a bit, lighten it a bit. Again, got to remember, it's a color negative. You just got to flip everything backwards. So normally for a color positive image, you would making the adjustments up here for the lightness. You'd be making them up here, and same with the darkness. And at this point, I want to adjust the color a little bit because it's looking a little bland. So let's see, maybe add that a little bit. Maybe add some. Maybe that's. You know what? I'll show you the final results and show you some of the editing that I've done with it. So just give me a minute here. As you can see, the image is getting closer to what I'd like it to be. And as you can see in the tone curve here, let me just click on that again. In the red channel, I've had to do a bit of adjustment. Again, this is sort of all done by eye, just to see what works and what looks right. It took as I say, it took a bit of work to make sure that I'm getting it right. So I'm not entirely happy with the amount of work that I'm doing with this, which is why I want to show you what I was doing with the cyan light and with let's try this again. I'd like to essentially show you what I've been doing with the editing with the cyan light, and I'm a lot happier with the editing process with that because it's simplified things for me a little bit. So yeah, stay tuned. During the editing process, I do find that balancing the colors is more satisfying than using the 0% saturation light, but it's still finicky. I do find that I'm still doing a lot of work to make sure that everything's balanced properly. Maybe because that the white light affects different colors in the color film negative differently. I'm not very sciencey, so I couldn't tell you. That's stuff where you can look it up online yourself. I've tried. It kind of goes over my head, as usual. But yeah. So with the cyan light, I've stumbled upon using this when I actually took a look at the color wheel. So yeah, here's the color wheel. No, not a tire, an actual wheel. No, not a cheese wheel. Come on, the color wheel, not cheese, not tires. As you can see, the opposite of orange on the color wheel is cyan. And as you can see with a color film negative, it's orange, so the opposite should be cyan. Go figure. So yeah, I kind of figured I'd give it a shot, see if I can maybe even get better results than using a 0% saturation or the pure white light. And yeah. All right, so editing the negatives that shot with the cyan light. As you can see, it's certainly a little more purplish, light purplish kind of thing. And of course, as you can see with the janky setup that I've got for shooting my negatives, it's a little crooked. That could be fixed. It's Lightroom. We can do it. So yeah, I guess first up, let's straighten it out. And one thing you can try and do is just hold down the Shift key and then double click on the word angle here in Lightroom on the image. And as you can see, it's sort of straightened things out. So next up, I'll just crop it in a little bit. I don't want to crop it in all the way because I want to use the edge of the negative as a reference point for the white balance. So yeah, and as you can see, I'm happy with the crop as it is. And next step would be using the white balance. Sorry, brain's not working right now. Just essentially taking the white balance eyedropper, moving it over to the edge of the photo and clicking on it. And as you can see, it's adjusted the white balance a little bit. I will say that the reason that I'm not doing a finer job of dialing in the white balance, or let's try that one more time. I will say that with the Godox light, I'm not dialing in an exact cyan shade, just because of the differences in the various different color films that are being produced. So I figured the cyan light that I'm using, sort of a good middle ground, good starting ground, and as you can see, it's a good starting point. All right, so the next step is to go to the tone curve and flip it right on its head. So just take that edge and then take the other edge and drop it. And as you can see, the color is getting pretty close to what I want it to be. I mean, it does need a little more contrast, so I'll just sort of play around with that a little bit, and that edge as well, bring it up. About as bright as I'd like it to be, and let's darken a little bit more. Something like that to start. Maybe just adjust this. Something like that. And yeah, I mean, you can spend a lot of time just really adjusting the contrast to however you'd like it. And for me, this is a good starting point. And from this point, you don't really have to do a lot of adjustments with the other channels because you're kind of close to where you want to be. I mean, I can sort of maybe make a little adjustment here. Do I want to do that? Maybe a little bit more. But as I say, you can at this point, I'm pretty happy with this as a starting point. I mean, it's now just sort of a matter of fine-tuning the colors, and you know, compared to the 0% saturation and the 5500 Kelvin, it's like taking a scalpel instead of taking like a huge sword to the image. You're just making very fine adjustments, and you know, I mean, at this point, I'll, you know, make some other color adjustments, add some more, you know, sharpness to it, and Bob's your uncle, essentially. You know, at this point, I'm very happy with this as a starting point for my edits. And as you can see, in terms of editing the image, I've been getting much more satisfying results. I'm finding that it's a lot easier and quicker to get the colors that I want. And yeah, honestly, I've been finding that this is quite a satisfying light color to use compared to, you know, 0% saturation in the 5500 Kelvin light. So yeah. All right, so this video is going on almost a half an hour. Probably time to wrap up this part of it. I've shown you 3 lighting techniques that you know, I've employed to help with editing color film negatives. In the next part, I'm going to be showing you a 4th method, which produces some pretty interesting results. So stay tuned, and at this point I'll do the usual, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you for part 2.